Those who compete for power in open
look
view
at how
lose
strategic
in
I
broad
am.
daylight.
You cease to
This
be
was the
strategic
unwritten
anymore.
maxim
If
of
you
Niccolò
utter,
Machiavelli.
I deserve more,
Never put in
then
writing
you fall
in the
below
prints
those who
or
comport
spoken in
themselves
boardroom
as if
corridors,
they need nothing.
but obeyed as
The
dogma
greatest
by
power
history's
is
greatest
not mastery.
minds.
It is
Machiavelli
disregard
understood
for
something
approval.
that escapes
You can't
most.
be caught.
Real
If
power
you
is
don't
not attained
require
by
their
playing by
approval,
the rules
you
as
can't
set,
lose.
but by
If you're
changing
not
them to
playing by their
guarantee your
rules,
triumph.
you can't be
Public
beaten
competition,
if nobody
where you
knows
bear
what
your
you're
intentions,
constructing.
shout
So
your
you remain
ambitions,
immobile,
and put on
you
display
watch,
your talents,
you wait,
is a
you gather
stage for the
leverage
naive.
silently.
It's
And when you
designed to
get the
benefit
right
those
time,
who already
you
possess
tip the
wealth,
whole board.
status.
It is the
or
deception of
influence.
equality
If you do not
that
possess
causes
such
individuals to
advantages,
show off
you
their
will
plan.
be doomed to
Place
failure.
a competition
Machiavelli
in the public,
therefore
establish
endorsed
a
a more
point
subtle,
system,
more strategic
applause,
tactic,
or ranks,
issue
and
overt
individuals
rivalry.
will happily
Make
give up
others
their
believe you're
secrets
playing their
in
game,
hopes that
whilst you
performance will
quietly
take them
change
along.
the playing
But the
field.
Machiavellian
This is the
thought
art
is
of the
aware of
hidden
this
advantage.
deception.
He
And
understands
mastering
that
not
honest
only
games
secures
are
your
constructed
triumph,
by the people
but makes
already
it
in
seem
power,
preordained,
not to determine equality,
Here's how it
but
unfolds.
to sort out
When
obedience.
faced with a dominant
If
figure,
you would like to
be it
advance
in
through the
business,
official
romance,
way, you
or
must
politics,
play in an
your
expected
pride
fashion.
might urge you to
Openly,
challenge them
securely,
directly, and that's
you
how
raise
they
your
defeated
voice,
you.
push
Not
harder,
with superior
and try to
skills,
outshine
but by
them
knowing
in their
you'll
own
reveal
arena,
your hand
only
because
to
you think the
falter.
game is
The
even.
defeat isn't
Thus
a result
Machiavelli
of weakness,
cautioned,
but
never
an
display your
ill-advised
true
battlefield.
moves when the
Machiavelli
apparatus is
advised,
watching.
when
Make
attacking
them
a
think
strong
you're
enemy,
playing.
don't
Make
just
them
wound,
think that you
kill
care.
them.
In
A
the
wounded
meanwhile,
enemy learns
work
how to
behind the
destroy you.
scenes.
But
This
most
is where
don't
the
even
true
achieve
power
a
builds
wound.
up. They
The weak
provoke,
attempt to
prod, or
triumph
annoy.
inside the
And are
framework.
quickly
The
overthrown.
strong redefine
Their
the
error
game
is not
itself,
in skill.
You
but
see it
in
in all
engaging
fields.
where they're
The
designed to
employee who
disappear.
climbs by
The
working
covert
more
benefit
is
requires
sooner
a
or
new
later
strategy.
replaced.
Never
The
attack where
person who
anticipated.
redesigns how
Observe
one
what
measures
your
performance
adversaries
is
most values.
indispensable.
Proudness,
The fellow who attempts to be
access,
sexier than all
respect,
the rest
and
wears
subtly
himself
claim
out.
the
The
underappreciated
person who
asset
gives
they've
the appearance
overlooked.
of being
Instead of
picked
attacking
is
a
chastened.
smooth-talking
The
leader
competitor
directly,
who competes
build
most
credibility among
ferociously in a
those they
zero-sum
underestimate.
game.
Might
Instead of
improve.
copying a successful company, identify its secrets and dominate a market they've overlooked. This is not retreat, it's a symmetrical strategy of the kind that conquers battles. An opponent can be louder, more intimidating, richer, or more experienced. But if you redefine victory, their strengths don't matter. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't in brute strength, but in manipulating the narrative. Move the game from charm to dominion, from brains to conviction, from money to having the freedom to walk away. If you permit others to set the terms, they will outmaneuver you. But by changing subtly what the game pays off, you can beat them before they know they've lost. The strategy is straightforward. Allow your opponent to flaunt their advantage, even praise them for it. Then nudge the situation into uncharted territory, where you exert ease, confidence, or mastery. Talk little, allowing others to comment on your calmness as the strong person exhausts themselves, establishing something no longer in contention. In doing so, you take charge of the story, and the story decides the victor. Competing openly exposes your desires, and Machiavelli knew that once your desires are known, they become tools for others to manipulate. If they know you seek respect, they'll withhold it to dominate you. If you crave attention, they'll dole it out sparingly to keep you tethered. If you pursue power, they'll paint you as the schemer while feigning innocence. Desire is a weapon, but one only available to the wielder, which is why Machiavellian operators never come across as desperate. They don't chase or beg, but instead suggest, hint, and allow others to read into them their own desires. Most importantly, they make multiple paths to their objective, taking the whole field while others fight for a single prize. This isn't indifference, it's control hidden in restraint. In each game, in each hierarchy, there is a choke point. It may be access to information, a pivotal relationship, a gatekeeping moment, a resource that will decide if others go further, while everyone else battles for attention. Machiavelli would capture the choke point. He'd bankroll the competitor's adversary. He'd gain the advisor's loyalty, not the king's. He'd dominate the system's bottleneck, while others bicker on the surface, because if you're in charge of the choke point, you don't have to be visible. People come to you. They won't applaud for you. They might not even recognize your name, but they're going through your gate, and that's the only power that counts. Open competition is a seduction of the insecure. It provides them with a platform, a cause to shout, "Look at me, I'm as good as them." But Machiavelli would smile, because he knows the game is already lost. To compete openly is to claim equality, but Machiavellian power is never equal. It is placed, layered, coldly unspoken. The one who utters less possesses more. The one who competes less succeeds more. The one who conceals his motives never fails. So recall this. If they can see your move, they can block it. If they can hear your hunger, they can starve you. If they believe you're playing the same game, they'll prepare for your move. But if you fade into the darkness, if you sidestep rather than advance, if you build behind the scenes while others do the show, you don't just win, you become the rule they never anticipated. A lion bears teeth. A fox bears nothing. That was Machiavelli's hierarchy of predators. He was awed by both the lion's strength and the fox's cunning. But only one of them makes it in a world where power is unsure, and that is the fox. The one who appears disinterested, the one who appears to be a spectator, but whose movements steer the direction of all consequences. This is not cowardice. It is the final expression of control. When others spend energy showing strength, and you save yours and succeed without struggle. That is where the subtle advantage compounds in silence, in patience, and in the management of perception. Let's dive in further. Leadership has been misinterpreted as spotlight. Everyone thinks to lead. You have to be loud, visible, public. You have to take credit, give speeches, wave flags. Machiavelli discarded that entirely. He knew that real power is found in invisibility, that the real ruler of a kingdom is not always the one sitting on the throne. In reality, the more you're in the spotlight, the more exposed you are. When you rule openly, they judge you, they conspire against you, they learn your routines, they plan your next steps. But when you work from the shadow, you're misunderstood, you're unblamed, you're invisible, and thus unopposed. Machiavelli recommended that rulers give power to others to act on their behalf and bear the blame, while they, the real author of strategy, stayed in the background. You don't require the title, you require the leverage, and leverage is subtle. As soon as you rile up a powerful foe, you energize them. They might have dismissed you previously, but now you've added a personal touch. Now they've got reason. So Machiavelli would wait. He would remain ambivalent. He would pretend to agree. He would allow them to make a fuss, win battles, declare themselves supreme. And as they danced around in circles, he'd watch, because all ambition consumes energy, and all pride betrays weakness. A person who feels challenged becomes careless, sloppy, predictable. That's when you attack, not head-on, but by disruption. You get to someone in their circle, you destroy a critical asset, you present a new reward that divides their allegiance. You take away something they weren't aware was keeping it all together. Now they fall apart from the inside out. And the beauty of it is, you never had to make a sword swing. People defend against what they know. If they perceive you as a competitor, they will fight, they will block, they will calculate. But if you seem to be something else altogether, helpful, distracted, naive, their guard drops. This is how Machiavellian thinkers win. They cloak their strategy in innocence. A question that pretends to be curious but uncovers a secret. A favor that accumulates invisible debt. An act of loyalty that creates long-term leverage. A smile that hides the calculation. This is not subterfuge for subterfuge's sake. This is engineering outcome by story. Because once they think they know what you're doing, they cease looking deeper. And that is where you prevail beneath the surface when they're sleeping. The majority of people fight not for dominance, but for claps. They desire to be observed. They desire to be popular. They desire the approval of the very individuals who don't count. This is the costliest game you can play. It makes you give up your independence for fleeting admiration. Machiavelli would leave that game to other people. As they pursued approval, he pursued benefit. As they gathered praise, he gathered information. As they lined up in front of the crowd, he lined up next to the decision maker. Here's what he understood. The world is full of players, boisterous, needy, wanting to be chosen. But the selector, the one who decides who rises or falls, he is quiet. He is present, but not in the limelight. Be that guy. What compels individuals to compete openly? The need to prove that you're intelligent, prove that you're capable, prove that you exist. But Machiavelli knew, as soon as you need to prove, you've lost status, because the strong don't show, they are, and they show us the proof. If you utter, dim, look at how strategic I am, you cease to be strategic anymore. If you utter, I deserve more, then you fall below those who comport themselves as if they need nothing. The greatest power is not mastery, it is disregard for approval. You can't be caught if you don't require their approval. You can't lose if you're not playing by their rules. You can't be beaten if nobody knows what you're constructing. So you remain immobile, you watch, you wait, you gather leverage silently, and when you get the right time, you tip the whole board. It is the deception of equality that causes individuals to show off their plan, place a competition in the public, establish a point system, applause, or ranks, and individuals will happily give up their secrets in hopes that performance will take them along. But the Machiavellian thought is aware of this deception. He understands that honest games are constructed by the people already in power, not to determine equality, but to sort out obedience. If you would like to advance through the official way, you must play in an expected fashion, openly, securely, and that's how they defeated you. Not with superior skills, but by knowing you'll reveal your hand because you think the game is even. Thus Machiavelli cautioned, never display your true moves when the apparatus is watching. Make them think you're playing. Make them think that you care. In the meanwhile, work behind the scenes. This is where the true power builds up. The weak attempt to triumph inside the framework. The strong redefine the game itself. You see it in all fields. The employee who climbs by working more is sooner or later replaced. The person who redesigns how one measures performance is indispensable. The fellow who attempts to be sexier than all the rest wears himself out. The person who gives the appearance of being picked is chastened. The competitor who competes most ferociously in a zero-sum game might impress. But the person who alters the rules, who determines who plays when, and on what terms he controls the whole arena. Machiavelli's greatest lesson wasn't compete strategically, it was create the definition by which others determine victory, that is the greatest underlying advantage. They believe they're playing the game, yet they're playing yours. Sometimes the greatest Machiavellian action is not to compete or retreat, but to position others to annihilate one another. This is an old tactic as kings. If two enemies both crave authority, Machiavelli would not confront either of them directly. He would slip one some sugar, feed the other a rumor, offer both of them partial intelligence, and then vanish. What happens next is to be expected. Accusations in turn, insecurity, distrust, collapse, and he accumulates loyalty amidst the detritus. You see this strategy even today in companies, when middle-level players are set against one another for a promotion. In romance, when tension and emotions is channeled laterally, not upwards in politics, where competing gangs annihilate one another, while the third one emerges in silence. Machiavelli didn't triumph with power, he triumphed with confusion. If they don't understand who the foe is, they cannot get together, and if they cannot get together, you never have to battle them. Individuals want to be seen, but Machiavelli wanted power. That's where majority fail. They think being visible is being powerful. Visibility is not power, it's liability. When they see you stand up, they resist. When they hear you intend, they prepare. When they know you desire, they gatekeep. Therefore, the really powerful do something else entirely. They sacrifice applause for power. They don't lead the show. They control the person who controls the show. They don't take credit for the idea. They finance the idea. They don't steer the conversation. They steer who talks. This takes one thing: detachment from being recognized. The weak crave to be the face. The strategist desires to have ownership of the system behind the face, since the clapping disappears, but the control doesn't. The last rule is merciless, and most never obey it, because it demands patience, quietness, non-responsiveness, long-term commitment to results others cannot yet perceive. While everyone else battles for victory in the present, Machiavelli was laying foundations that would bring his enemies tumbling down a year later. He'd win the argument to lose the throne. He'd endure ridicule in order not to be seen. He'd nod as the king boasted, aware that the king's counselor had already sworn loyalty to him. To outshine someone is to bring attention. To outlive them is to inherit. Your foes will ultimately destroy themselves through arrogance. Befriend those allies and overreach so you can lose them and be replaced for being too powerful. You don't have to annihilate them, you merely have to be the survivor of their explosion. But, in order to do this, you need to hone a ruthless skill, delayed revenge, silent triumph, quiet construction. That is how you bury kings without drawing a sword. The deadliest error is being solved. Once they discover you operate in shadows, they'll never allow you near the levers of power again. They'll analyze your actions. They'll anticipate your plans. They'll bar you out. So, Machiavelli's greatest triumph was always mental. He made you believe he was harmless, loyal, predictable, until the day everything swayed in his direction, because he didn't run in the open. He established the situation where he could not fail. What the majority of people don't know is this: the most deadly man in the room is never the one in the middle. He's the one who constructed the room, and that was Machiavelli's last incarnation. Not the opponent, not the king, not the fighter, but the designer. He built worlds where all choices came back to him, where other people thought they were making a decision, but all paths, all helpers, all getaways were masterminded to serve him. This is the apex of the secret advantage, not playing at a better game than other people, but designing the game itself so that other people inadvertently advance your purposes. Let me illustrate how this is accomplished. Most of us squander time managing people, talking them into things, arguing, pleading, threatening, and persuading. But Machiavelli wasn't interested in that. He managed the environment, the incentives, the beliefs, the perceptions, and let other people adapt, consider it. Rather than insisting on loyalty, he set up a situation where betrayal was riskier than obedience. Rather than threatening you with consequences, he put people around you who would lose if you defied him. Rather than demanding to be obeyed, he made himself the only practical alternative to anarchy. He made the intelligent move seem like your own initiative. And this is the point. You don't succeed by overpowering the individual. You succeed by overpowering their choices. When you design the conditions, individuals will act the way you prefer and believe it was their idea. Machiavelli's sickest strategies were based on the illusion of choice. He'd present two alternatives, one more brutal, one more devious, but both resulting in his preferred outcome. If he forced individuals to decide between being publicly embarrassed or taking his proposal, they'd take his proposal and feel powerful for making it. But that's the trick. They felt like they had avoided defeat when in reality, they walked exactly where he wanted. This works everywhere. In negotiation, you offer them two deals, one fair, one outrageous. They pick the fair one, not realizing it's still tilted in your favor. In relationships, you show less interest. Now they choose to pursue you, not knowing you designed the void that made them crave you. In status games, you play disinterested in the result. Now they're insecure and begin pursuing your approval. You didn't pressure, you merely set up the room to make pursuing you equivalent to escape. If they fear you, they will defend themselves. But if they underestimate you, you can do anything. Machiavelli tended to play the fool. He allowed others to believe they knew more, were more charming, were stronger, and that pretense became their downfall. Because once they let their guard down, they show you their priorities, their allegiances, their vulnerabilities, their ego, and then when it counts, you strike, not dramatically, not theatrically, but with one precise stroke that shatters their illusion of mastery, and because they never expected it, they cannot recover. That is not merely strategy, that is theater, and you're the unseen director. Never reveal all. This is the secret arsenal of the Machiavellian, the gap of information. When others do not know what you believe, they expose more. When others do not know what you desire, they offer. When others do not know what you intend, They fill the silence with their own fears. Machiavelli utilized this silence. He did not lie, he just did not explain. And in that void, others overextended. They made the first step. They admitted motives. They revealed all their cards merely to be secure. That's when he made his move. Because the one who knows most, but reveals least always triumphs. What distinguishes Machiavellian control from level tricks is this. He did not merely manipulate others. He constructed systems while others competed for attention or power. He constructed quiet infrastructure, an army of loyal intermediaries who owed him credit, a series of alliances in which he was the unifying threat or promise, a reputation built not for popularity, but for inevitability. And over time this became self-sustaining. He didn't have to do anything. The system did it for him. He didn't have to pursue power. It came to him because taking him down would bring everything crashing down. This is the ultimate state of concealed advantage. When you are the quiet keystone, all those around you can change. New leaders emerge, old leaders crumble, fashions change, allegiances dissolve, but you are still there because you never competed to begin with. You were constructing the machinery that competitors rely upon. This is the last law, the one that Machiavelli lived by silently. The minute you compete openly, you are predictable, and the predictable man dies fast. They will survey you, tag you, copy you, corner you. But the man they cannot figure, the man they consider beneath them, the man whose motives are inaccessible, that man is unconquerable. He is not embarrassed by public defeat. He is not addicted to public approval. He is not softened by jealousy or noise or pressure, because he does not play their game. He constructs his own and gets others to think it existed all along. That is the law of secret advantage, and once you get good at it, the world doesn't just comply.